Here's the reality. You have a story. And the story is true, and what you experienced is true, and how you felt is real. But some of you tell yourselves a false story about yourself, about your pain, about God, about the people around you, about the way the world works as a result of your trauma, of your pain, of the difficulty. Everyone's just telling themselves a story because they're trying to survive life. Most people, apart from psychopaths, aren't just trying to hurt people. They're just trying to make it. And everybody's got a different idea on how they do it. And the way that you know whether it's a true story is, how are they living their life? Because it reflects the story they're telling themselves. And so what I'm telling you is not that your pain isn't real, but I am telling you the story you tell yourself about your pain might not be trustworthy. And if you can't trust you, who can you trust? Because you might wonder about the car salesman. You might wonder about the door-to-door delivery Amazon person. Is that an Amazon person? Is that a porch pirate dressed like an Amazon person? What's happening here? Am I getting a gift or are they taking my stuff? What's going on? You might wonder about the pastor. You might wonder about your spouse, but yourself? What kind of shape are we in if we can't even trust us? It's not that we try to lie to ourselves, but we tell ourselves stories like this, even believers. I don't matter. If I just stopped showing, it wouldn't be a big deal. I do what I do and I show up and I do this, but if I didn't do it, they'd replace me pretty quick. God's not paying attention, especially in our pain. And if you do that, you're just being honest. The psalmists do that. Why have you forsaken me? Jesus is quoting from a psalmist when Jesus himself says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Has he forgotten? Why aren't you paying attention? Where are you? Why'd you stop? I'm too far lost. And it's true. There's true things about God, and it's true. And it might have been true about me in the past. It's not true today. I'm too broken. I'm too forgotten. And you start saying statements like this. That's just the way that it is. As if change is impossible. That's not true. What Peter's doing is he's going, let me give you a true story. Here's the true story concerning this salvation. When in doubt, zoom out. Who spoke of the grace. It wasn't something you did. It's been done for you. It's given to you. That's what grace is. That has come to you. The prophets search intently, the greatest care, trying to find out the time, the circle about your salvation. Even the angels long to look into this. So if you think you don't matter, if you think God's not paying attention, angels are watching your life. Not just the moment of your salvation, the working out of your salvation. And Peter's calling us to then look forward to the future grace of our salvation when it's fully realized. If you're telling yourself you don't matter, that's not true. If you're telling yourself God's not paying attention, it may be true that you feel that way. It's not true to the story. He's reminding them of their story. And then he also reminding them of their identity. Remember, they're being persecuted. We're told in 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 12, this verse, I bet you none of you have selected this for your life verse. If you have a t-shirt on that says this verse on the chest today, I'll give you $1 million. I don't even have that, but I will find a way. 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 12, everyone, underline that, who wants to live a godly life, even just desires to live a godly life, not even that you're doing it, everyone who wants to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. Now might be, could be, not if you live in America you will be, but not if you live in Syria, or vice versa, or if you live in Yemen and not Raleigh. No, everyone who even desires to live a godly life in Christ Jesus, not some people, not just the paid professional Christians on the mission field or in the pulpit, not just the people who are like uber Christian. You ever met those uber Christians? They're so annoying. But they're oftentimes faithful. Some of them are fake, but they're faithful. It says everyone, that means you if you're a follower of Jesus. And so I wrote down some questions this week, if that's true. If it's true that everyone who desires to live a godly life will be persecuted, and that persecution might be slander, it might be being outcast, it might be being marginalized, it might be being murdered. It might be being attempted to be forced into compromise. Not just because the world's broken, but because of your faith. If it hasn't happened to you yet, maybe you haven't been a Christian very long, here's some questions to ask yourself. If following Jesus has never cost me anything, am I following him closely enough for anyone to notice? Write that down for yourself. You can think about it later. What parts of my faith have I quietly hidden to avoid discomfort? Am I being persecuted for Christ, or am I merely experiencing the consequences of my own behavior? Or am I a jerk, would be another way to say it, but I was trying to be nice. I wrote it down. If persecution is promised, why are so many Christians surprised by it? There's a good small group discussion for you. If this verse is true, what do I do with a version of Christianity that costs me nothing? It's not Christianity. That's the answer. Sorry, I had to give you that one. And you got to ask yourself the question, if you have been claiming to live by faith for a long time, but have never experienced persecution, is it real faith, biblical faith? If this verse is true, 2 Timothy 3:12, everyone who wants to live a godly life will be persecuted. He goes on in verse 13, and he says, therefore, and he's connecting back to everything that's been said, not just the verse 10, 11, and 12, which was talking about our salvation, not that, but going all the way back to the very beginning, verse 1, all the way to verse 1, all the way through, which has been about our identity, about our salvation, about all the things God has done, and it's had nothing to do with what we do. Grace, it's amazing, it's happened, but those are the indicatives. And the indicatives precede the imperatives. You're about to be told what to do. That's what the imperatives are. They're the commands. The indicatives are statements of truth. It's true. Regardless of what you do, think, say, it's true. This is the story. Zoom out. Know the story. But now let's talk about identity. And the way that we're going to know whether that story is true about you is we look at what you do. And if what you do, then we see your behavior. And so then he goes on and he says this, therefore, with minds that are alert, pay attention, fully sober, not drunk on the world, set your hope, and might underline that word set, we'll come back to it, on the grace, not what you do, but remember, this was given to you to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. There's the future grace. Receive the grace of salvation. Here's the future grace. As obedient children, so there is something for us to do. Do not conform. We've already been told to hope. There's a command. Now we're told not to conform. That's going to be unpacked more with a word that for some of you, if you've ever experienced legalism, is going to make you stop listening. Do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance. Empty lives is another way to translate that. But, here's the contrast, just as he, it's based on his character, who he is, the grace in your life, what he's done, just as he who called you is holy, so be holy. Be who you already are. The moment of your salvation, you weren't sinless, but you were made holy. You are different, set apart, and you shouldn't fit in this world. Be holy in all you do, for it is written, be holy because I, God, am holy. He's talking about our identity. Be who you are in light of your salvation. And talk about